Okay, everybody, some of you know who I am, some of you don't. My name is Nick, and I work as a professional tarot reader, and I'm interested in strange, interesting, unusual spiritual things and also spiritual approaches. One of the reasons I set up this channel was to try and help people to think more about how they understand the subject and to therefore maybe go some way to take some of the stupidity out of, people's exploration of apparently scythe type phenomena. But I also do other things for your entertainment and for your pleasure. And this is the season of Halloween, which to a lot of you people out there might have some really, really important special meaning. And it does to me as well. So I'm just going to take a few moments just to think about what this time of year is and that sort of thing prior to actually getting on to some variety of more serious attempt to generate an experience for myself for the purposes of seeing what the hell happens using whatever tools and accessories I see fit, or indeed none at all. What is Halloween? It's just a time of year for a start off. Okay, the people a long time ago had to find a way of splitting up the year into segments so that they could work out when to plant the seeds and when to, have celebrations and get together. And getting together with other people at various times of the year is something that humans do. So it makes sense that different times of the year would have a different theme, and the theme would be based somehow upon what's happening during the time of year, what they're anticipating is going to happen afterwards, and so on and so forth. One thing you've got to remember is that a lot of the ideas and traditions which is traditionally associated with Halloween was, like in older times, done at different times of the year. It wasn't specifically around Halloween. It's just like they've taken all of the fun things like apple bobbing and all that kind of stuff and just crammed it into this one particular corner of the year, when in fact some of the traditions could have been Yuletide traditions, spring equinox, autumn equinox, midsummer, and so on and so forth. But it just happens to be at about this time of the year. So essentially, in lots of ways, this time of year is when subcultural or cross-cultural ideas and also things from, I suppose, all over the world and all over the playful world is kind of brought together in one particular mass, so you can then enjoy it all in one go. Why would it be that weird shit, okay, will get specifically associated with Halloween? I think it's a bit more of a grey area. Obviously there's the association with All Souls, which is the Christian festival, which happens the day after. And that's, let's just remember those who've passed and that sort of thing and light a candle for them. And of course there's all the other traditions like soul cakes and praying for people's souls in exchange for, some variety of oatcake biscuit type thing. Which, if someone was praying for the soul of your dead person to keep them out of purgatory, you'd have thought a slightly bigger reward than a tiny little oatcake would probably be sufficient. But people did things differently in those days, and people understood the world differently. And that's just how it all kind of ended up the way it is now. So we're now in a situation whereby we have these allegedly ancient Halloween traditions, which actually could have been there on Midsummer's Day or May Day, but we regard them as all as being boom, put here, and that's what makes it spooky. Or is Halloween spooky just because it is complicated? And there's an awful lot of cultural trains of thought which is happening all in one go, and therefore people don't quite know what to think. Should they be watching horror movies? Should they be getting out the Ouija board? Should they be praying for the souls of the dead? Should they be engaging in spiritual healing? Or should they be raising mischief in some way? Because one of the reasons that Halloween turned into a more family festival was because community associations were getting really, really upset with all of the mischief that people were doing. And one of the names for Halloween was, of course, Gates Night, because people would go into the farmers' fields and just open the gates and let the animals run wild, because that would be a laugh. Whereas, it's taken away the livelihood of the farmer, and it's also taken away potentially the livestock which the village itself could actually use, all right, as food. So it's just mischief which doesn't really help anyone. So obviously they had to cut it down. And so it became a family festival type thing. And, churches and community centres created little kids' Halloween masks, and it became quite a friendly kid thing. With a bit of scary associations, but still a friendly kid thing. So you're not a kid anymore. you probably don't go trick-or-treating unless, of course, you've got kids and you go trick-or-treating with them. So why is it that you have a fascination with Halloween? Okay, it's all closely associated with Samhain, Samhain, or Samhain, depending on who's pronouncing it at the time, the start of the Celtic New Year and all the rest of that. But that's also not necessarily a dark association. Okay, that's just an association of kind of like rebirth, where we've gone through all of the time of year when we can be active, and now, boom, it's kind of like maybe we just like stop doing all of our productive activity for a while, and so we can just like do some hibernation until we can like get busy at some point in the new year, sort of thing. So again, that's not necessarily a dark thing, but yet we've got these dark associations with it. It's almost like humans are only allowing themselves to engage with maybe Gothic imagery or thinking about their mortality. The basic facts of life is that I'm flesh and blood. I'm going to pass away one day, and what's going to happen after that, and so on and so forth. But why is it we just leave it to one time of the year? We should allow ourselves to explore, I think, some Halloween traditions and indeed Halloween imagery at different times of the year. It shouldn't be specifically just now. Now you're allowed to be strange. I mean, why would that be the case? I can't quite work it out. Either way, we can use it. And we're going to use it because I'm going to do an experiment for myself to try and have an experience. Alright? These days I'm taking my experiments with a bit more seriousness than previously, because as I've progressed and as I've experienced more, it seems to me that I'm developing some particular opinions about how these things should be approached. And I think they need to be approached with a certain level of respect, as if you're actually attempting to hold a conversation with another person who is real and has emotional sensitivities and has their own background and has their own reason to be. It feels to me as though we're actually attempting to like phone somebody up, basically. If there was like some random person on the phone book and you just like called their number, it would feel to me to be something like that. You're talking to another person, you're not doing it for mischief, you're not doing it just to see how they would react. You're doing it because you're treating it as if they are there. And sometimes, once in a while, something will happen that you'll experience which will suggest to you that maybe they were. Okay, everybody, so what are we actually going to do this Halloween on this channel? Is it going to be something of intense darkness? Is it going to be something which is frightening to me personally? And I think that's the kind of direction I'd like to go in, actually. Something which is frightening for me personally are these dudes. Okay? The Angel Tower. Now remember, I'm not approaching the subject of, angels the way I understand them from the same point of view as maybe you would. For those of you who know my channel and know what I've done in the past and some of the experiments I did when I was younger, you will know that I had an experience with an angel at one point. That particular experience was actually quite warm, gentle and wise, despite the fact it was very macabre, because the experience was that of the angel of death. But I was very young when I did that particular thing. And it's almost like the angel seemed to deploy a certain level of understanding and wisdom. Now, if I, as like a nearly 50-year-old, encounter a young person in the street who's being a bit really, really terrible, I would probably, say a few words, but I wouldn't go any further with it, you know what I mean? But if it was someone my age who was being pretty terrible, I might be a bit stronger with them. So as I've progressed over the years, would people like this want to treat me with a bit more severity than they would have done if I was in my late teens and early 20s? Is that a possibility? Now, taking into account the descriptions of angels, not only in the Bible, but also from those who say that they have seen them, they could be like a sandstorm with 1,000 eyes. They could, some of the descriptions are in fact quite frightening. So we could have a look at this and see what's coming on through. I want to use a different technique now. I want to use a very different technique. And the technique I want to use now is not the Ouija board. It's this. I haven't done that much crystal ball work for a long time. I mean, I've got this one, and I've got the glass one as well. It feels better to use the crystal one, but the glass one is slightly larger, and therefore I've got a bigger screen, so to speak, for me to check my, what I'm going to be seeing in it. Let me quickly remind you of the methodology of using the crystal ball the way I want to explain it to you. It's not a question of you look at the board and pretty pictures appear in it. It's like the experience of staring at a candle flame instead, and you get the persistence of vision and shape. All right, you carry on staring into it with a certain level of intention, focus, awareness, and openness, and then things change. You're staring at that point, which your mind can't work out what it is because it's just a persistence of vision blur in the ball, takes on a different shape. It starts looking different. And you can all of a sudden get something scary appearing in that little space. And I've had that before with Dark Mirror, and it was, it scared the living shit out of me. So I'm actually genuinely afraid of doing this. I'm going to try and keep it down to a simple method and see whether we can experience something. All I can do is to describe to you what I'm seeing in the ball. That's all. I cannot show you, I cannot draw you a picture, I cannot take a photograph. And that is difficult for you because you're an audience on YouTube and you want to see something visual, so that's why I normally get out bored. But this thing doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me anymore. Did when I was young. Doesn't now. What I'm going to see in the ball, on the basis of the previous experience that I've got, may well be genuinely terrifying to me. And I don't know how I'm going to react to it. So all I'm going to do is to give it a go and see what happens. But first, we have to think about which angel we're going to choose, and we're going to have to set up the experiment to the best of my ability and try and explain to you the theories upon which I'm going through, as it were, to try and create the experience. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is the kind of setup which we would expect to have for a good crystal ball scrying session. You have to have the candles either side of the crystal, not because you want the light to reflect into the crystal, but you want the light to reflect onto your own face. You will then look at your reflection of the face in the crystal ball and you will stay very still, very relaxed. Some people say you have to keep your eyes open all the time. I think that's rubbish. If you need to blink, blink, but try and keep your focus and try and keep your eyes open for as long as you can. You'll be doing so in a meditative and prayerful state. You will be feeling open as best as you can. You will have done a chakra opening exercise beforehand, and probably the lesser rite of pentagram in order to make you feel a certain particular way and to only invite things into your energy field which you want to allow as a result of your intention. You will then have done some forms of prayer and meditation and chanting, possibly in the same kind of tone as you would expect a monk or a monastic person to kind of like do it, which is very similar, therefore, to the methods which is spoken of in any particular version of the Lesser Key of Solomon with its various different prayers. I might actually select a prayer to do, which I will do by myself, without the camera on top of me, prior to starting the actual work itself. Now, who are we going to attempt to see? Right? This is not a question of them dropping by for a nice cup of tea and having a chat for a couple of hours about philosophy, literature, arts, and the rest of it. It's a question of who is it I want to see in the crystal. They could be good, they could be bad, they could take an instant dislike to me, I don't know. Or maybe they could be very considerate to me, or maybe there'll be something that I will feel which will make me feel that like this is the wrong thing to do for me to do right now. I don't really know. I'm shuffling the Angel deck now, the Angel Tarot by Travis McHenry. Oh, God. So, this is now a completely random picking. Oh, he's actually quite a good guy. That doesn't sound too bad. Alright, the angel name from the Nine of Cups from the Angel Tarot. Habuhaya. Habuhaya. Of which its prayer line says God of the kindest giver, and speaks about healing, preserves health, and cures disease. The imagery on the card, I don't know whether you can see that, is just pretty much a typical archetypal angel type guy. So here we're going to see what happens. I've pretty much got the lighting sorted out so that there's very little light seepage coming into the room once I turn the main lights off. So the candles and the reflection of my face in the crystal should be the only thing that I will see. I will now go away and I will do some basic preparation prior to starting this particular formalized operation. Plenty of operations you can do which aren't formalized, okay? But this is a formalized attempt to use the crystal ball properly in accordance with tradition. Happy Halloween, everybody. We're about to get spooky properly. Just arranging the ball to see if I can get it better. Hang on a second. Because of the position of the ball and the candles, for some reason I'm not getting a full impression of my own facial reflection. It's not very strong. I would need a black cloth behind the ball to make it better. But I can see just there, tiny little pinprick of orangey hue, which is what my face is, so that's what I'll be staring upon now. I'm inwardly chanting the name of the angel. I'm extending as best as I can towards that name. There is a strange flickering in the crystal. Very thin, very subtle. Purple and red flames. The feeling seems to be coming and going. I can't quite keep it constant. The attention. When the intention is good, then the flames come back. can feel myself being pulled emotionally in different directions. Sometimes it feels like I'm being pulled towards low base intense emotion, like almost like anger but more subtle. Then I feel myself being pulled in a higher prayerful state, and I'm not sure which, what I'm being told from this, almost as if like the lower state is the instinctive one that gives the pleasure, but it's not going to help me because it's going to lead to self-destruction. And this other energy, this prayerful, tranquil, higher energy, I can feel myself opening up to it now. It's like there's a vision appearing in my mind's eye of this place, very white, very bright, marble-like, but large. It looks like there's people who are preparing for a journey in it, but they're all in white. Everything is in white. Their faces are white. Every single face is white. The walls are white. The things in it is white. It feels higher. I'm getting this image of being taken on a preparation to go on a journey somewhere. Very quickly, the image of from Polar Express came with a train going into space, something which feels like that but doesn't look like it. So strange. Now I'm trying to ask the crystal to show me the face of the angel I'm looking at now. I can sense this feeling of this being. I feel the presence of their face, but it seems to be masked, almost like the face of those Cybermen for Doctor Who in the old days. It's masked. You can see the eye hole and the mouth hole, but that's it. But there's a sense of this being frustrated, like trying to run away from something but not being able to move, maybe in a state of fear. The angel is trying to communicate to me a sense either of their own state or a state that they're trying to tell me is wrong with other people. And maybe the face is blank for a reason, because it could be anyone's. This is very strange. I feel it. I feel that there is a sense of a presence here. No, it's not true. This is not a kind of being you can order around. Others have tried to bind it, but to no avail. There is something higher about this energy. I feel it supporting. I can feel a weight on my shoulders now, and almost like a cloak, or maybe a sense of symbolic angel wings being put on my back. I can't quite work out what it feels like. But it feels like this angel almost has no face. It's just like there, kind of like guarding me, looking after me. The sense of this being is considerate. I say thank you to it. He says that he knows that I don't know what I'm doing. The flames are coming back into the crystal. They're flames of blue and purple, very strongly blue and purple, always blue and purple for some reason. There's this it's like this is an angel that's at war with another force around it. It fights against like inner temptation. It feels to me as though this angel that we're speaking of here has some kind of connection to inner guidance and inner guides and intuition. Habu Haya. Its energy is distinctly different to those that I've felt before. It has its own character and personality. I could possibly recognize it again. Roughly interpreted, almost like how you'd expect a good Franciscan monk to be. It feels very strange, but not quite. It's like, there's a sense that with this energy, there's a lot more behind it. This entity is a lot more behind it. Now I'm getting this thing that looks a bit like an end times vision. It's very strange. But I'm not taking it seriously because I'm not feeling it. I don't really know what that means. Now the energy is going. Thank you. I think some operative words would be, crikey, that was a bit trippy, wasn't it? Oh, completely different feeling when you're doing that when doing anything else. And the things I was seeing in the crystal, fortunately for me, I didn't see a scary face. If you think the face of a Cyberman from Doctor Who is scary, one of the old school ones, that look like they've got a sock over their head with eye holes, then fine. But that's what it was. It was just this sense of there being eyes and a sense of there being a mouth, but there was no real thing to see there. Maybe that's because it was an energy that just came out like straight and clear and pure, and it didn't need to express itself in as much of a human form as others are supposed to come through. But it felt very interesting. I mean, I was quite deep in that experience. I'm sure if like something had happened, if someone rang the doorbell or something, I'd be disturbed. Of course I would be. But there was a sense of there being quite a deep and very interesting energetic experience. I was too used to using the black mirror because the black mirror was easy. You could always get the the candles right, the positioning of them, so you could see your reflection. Also, I did it with a frying pan one Halloween. I don't know whether you remember that. And I just like have my face over a puddle of water in a frying pan, and that was my dark mirror. And that was much easier to do than a small surface like this. I think I'd have to actually design something with cool LED lights that could like shine on the side of my face but not in my eyes, so I could then see my facial expression better in the ball. But this guy here, he did seem to manifest himself. There was definitely a sense of there being a presence, and it was thoroughly unexpected.